So really what I want to do today is I really want to talk about something that I think is one of the most important aspects of this business if you want to grow. I want to talk about hiring assistants, whether they're office assistants or virtual assistants. So a little story about me. I got in the business when I was about 26 years old. I started selling REOs, and what happened was I would get one REO, I would do all the work. And if anyone's ever done an REO property, I was turning on the utilities, I was paying the bills, I was going to the evictions, I was going to this or that. When there was one property, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I have a passion to try to scale. So when I hit 30 properties, this became a really big issue. So what happened is I hired someone, it didn't work out. My hiring skills was basically I put an ad on Craigslist, the person said they could do the job. I said, great, here's the job. Day one, they came, they looked at me, I looked at them, and I realized neither one of us had a clue of what we were doing. So it didn't work out. I know a lot of realtors who had a very similar experience, and then their attitude becomes, oh, well, you know, I just can't hire an assistant. It's just easier and more for me to do it myself. And what I've realized over the years is that when you hire the right people, what you're going to learn is people are actually going to do it better than you do it. Right? I surround myself with people who do jobs better than I do it. And anyone who works in our office will know they'd probably rather have people doing their roles, what they're doing, than having me do it because it's not my strength. So what happened is as I continued to grow, I had to add more staff. But then I came to the realization that if I keep staffing at this pace, I'm going to have a real issue with this word in this business that's not used a lot called profitability. When you go to award ceremonies, people are standing up on stage getting some of the biggest awards. But as you guys know, you've heard stories from friends of mine that have spoken to us, is they're up there accepting the awards, but they're realizing they're not really making any money. Because when you scale and you add more and more staff, it's going to bring down your profit after advertising and everything else. Right? There's people out there who coach how to build teams, and they say, oh, you want to have a director of marketing, you want to have a director of this, you want to have a director of that. At the end of all that, you're going to be the director of broke. Right? It sounds good in theory, but that's exactly that. It's theory. It's people who haven't practiced it. So what I started doing is I started scaling. I started needing more help. But I was like, I can't just keep hiring people because it's too much to manage, office space, everything like this. So someone said, hey, have you ever thought about getting a virtual assistant? And I'm like, typical, that can't work. What do you mean a virtual assistant? I need someone sitting right next to me, this, and this. There's no way I can have a virtual assistant. So what did I do? I hired my first virtual assistant. Helped me with property management, managing some of my REO properties. He was so good and so talented, but I kept scaling. I hired a second virtual assistant. I have a virtual assistant, his name is Johan. He's been with me for 4 years. He helps me so much behind the scenes. Now I'm at the point where I have 4 full-time virtual assistants that people don't know, people don't hear about, people don't see, but they're the backbone into my business and helping scale. So really what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit about how to scale, how to stay profitable. It's going to go a little bit into team building. And there's going to be a word that you're going to keep seeing over and over again, is talent. There's talent all over the world, but there's also non-talent all over the world. And when you surround yourself with people who have talent, you know it right away. You're around that person, you're like, this person is talented, this is someone I need to be with. And vice versa, when you surround yourself with someone who isn't talented, you know right away. So faith in the end game helps you live through the months or years of buildup. Jim Collins. Good to great. I love this quote Because this is what happens. Agents will hire an assistant, and on day 2, they're like, this assistant doesn't know what they're doing. Well, you haven't taught them what to do. It's not easy. You have to stick through it with good people. You have to know what your goal is, and more importantly, you have to be willing to work to it to get to that goal. You can't, if you have the right people, you have to look at yourself. A lot of times when good, talented admins are hired and they don't work out, I usually say to the agent, it wasn't the admin's fault, it was your fault. If you hire a buyer's agent who's talented, but you can't train that buyer's agent and get him to where it is, typically it's not that buyer's agent's fault, it's the team leader's fault. Now, a talent, a special natural ability to do something well, or people who have this ability. Again, when you surround yourself with talent, you know it. When you surround yourself with people who aren't talented, you will know it. And when you hire and surround yourself with talent, you're able to scale. When you hire and don't surround yourself with talent, it will bring you down. I've had bad admins before. If anything you get today, I hope you learn from some of the mistakes I've made. I have made very bad admin hires in the past. I now have a much more screening process, tougher screening process, that if you can't pass my screening process, we can't even have this conversation about you working for me. And I don't care what level position it is, because there's talent at every position and every level. It's just about finding it. And talent and success, they leave clues if you ask the right questions. I just want to go over a couple books that can really help with you identifying talent and also help you with scaling your business. First one is Good to Great with Jim Collins. I read a quote from him before. A lot of you people have heard me spoke before. I always talk about this book. What's great about Jim Collins, man, he just talks about how to really scale your business. And he always uses the example, and I love this example. Who here has heard of Eckerd drugstores? Right? Eckerd drugstore used to go out and buy every mom and pop pharmacy in a strip mall, stick their blue sign on it, and call it Eckerd's. Who here has seen Eckerd's in the last 5 years? Right? Eckerd's number one competitor was a company you might have heard of called Walgreens. Do you still see Walgreens? You're never going to look at Walgreens the same again. Because listen, Walgreens said, we're not just going to buy out every mom and pop drugstore. We're going to be strategic. We are going to buy property on a corner, and we're going to build our locations there. So you can turn right into our drugstore. How many Walgreens do you see in strip malls? Right? Watch the next time you drive and you go past it, you're going to be like, it's on a corner, and you can make 2 right-hand turns to get into it. So that wasn't their business model, right? Another example is McDonald's. Who here can just cook such a great cheeseburger? Who here can make such a great cheeseburger? Nobody here can make a cheeseburger. Kareem, you can make a great cheeseburger. Is your cheeseburger better than McDonald's? Yeah. You will never sell as many cheeseburgers as McDonald's. Right? Why? McDonald's has systems, processes they've built out and they've scaled. Might not be the best cheeseburger, but they have everything behind it to build out. Eckerd and Walgreens were in the same business, the drugstore business. Eckerd is no longer with us. Walgreens is thriving and just expanding with the same principle. That's the difference between going from good to great. Next book, E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't read the E-Myth, this is a great, great book about where you are in your business and the different stage. There's the tactician. What the tactician is, and they use this example, is of a baker. This woman baked the best cakes. So what does she do? She goes, I'm such a great cake baker, I'm going to go open up a bakery because my cakes are that good. So what happens is she opens up a bakery. A year into it, she goes, I hate baking cakes. Well, why do you hate baking cakes? Because all I do is bake these cakes and try to run the business. I should have stayed a baker. She was never able to scale because she was never able to replace what she did with someone that was equally as talented. Right? You got to look at where your business is. Can you take 2 days off and not worry about your phone ringing? Can you take the 2 hours sitting here and take off from your business? I could shut my phone off for the 2 hours here. I don't worry about who's texting, who's calling. I could care less because I'm here and I'm grateful to be here. And I also have support to keep running. This business, newsflash, this business is not easy. I give each and every single one of you in this room credit because you've been making it in the business or you have the desire to make it in the business. But there's a reason we have one of the highest turnaround rates as a business. I used to have a rule when I first started at my first brokerage. If you weren't there for 90 days, I didn't introduce myself. And people are always like, Carl, that's like mean. Who do you think you are? You didn't introduce yourself. Because the turnaround was so great that I didn't want to like you, and then you were gone. And that's just the truth. Top grading. Reading this book changed the way I hired. I'm going to give you a warning about this book. I was speaking to somebody who recommended me the book, Wayne Frederick. He said, Carl, you got to read Top Grading. I said, Wayne, I got the book. I read it in a sitting. An hour, I finished it. It was great. I got so much good knowledge out of it. Wayne's looking at me really weird. I'm like, why is he looking at me? He's like, you read that whole book in 1 hour. I'm like, yeah, it was great. He goes, Carl, the book's 600 pages. I'm like, what version did I get? Get the Cliff Note version. That's what I got. It will teach you how to ask the right questions. This is how most agents, and I don't want to say agents, this isn't even just for real estate, this is how they interview for an assistant. Mamatha, so I need someone who could do this, 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 and this, 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 this. Mamatha needs a job. What does she say? Yes. Oh, okay, we're a perfect match. You mean you can do all this? Yeah, you're hired. What happens 2 days into it? I look at Mamatha, like, I thought you knew how to do all this. Well, you didn't tell me how to do any of it. Oh, this didn't work. Right? And we laugh, but I can't tell you how many interviews I've sat in. I've done this with some of the agents in our office. You want to hire an admin, I'll sit in on the interview with you. They go down their path, I go down my path, and by the end of the path, the agent looks at me and goes, wow, I was way off on this person. Quick example, so one of the agents they were hiring, I brought one admin for an interview, they brought me two. I said, we'll see which one's better. Like, oh, we really liked these two. Great, let's interview them. I was interviewing one of them, and I said, okay, so tell me about, what was the biggest challenge at your previous position? She goes, the biggest challenge at my previous job at ABC Mortgage was blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at her resume. I said, can you do me a favor? She said, yes. I'm like, can you phonetically spell the name of your mortgage company? She was like, Alpha, Charlie, Brian. I'm looking at the resume. The resume says ABC Mortgage. I said, listen, I have a tough time hearing. Would you mind just phonetically spelling it for me one more time? Alpha, Charlie, Bravo. Why the resume? I'm looking at the resume. This is a woman who's telling me she's detail-oriented. ABC Mortgage. I'm sitting there with the resume, my agents, they don't even realize what's going on. I just take big X. If you can't spell the name of your company right, I'm sorry. You're a nice person, you can't play with me. You're not going to make it with me. Listen, that's a mistake I'll make. I need people around me because I'm not detail-oriented, but I need the people around me to pick me up. Right? We had another woman. She had this job on her resume for like 7 years. And I'm like, wait, so tell me about this position? It was a bogus job. It looked good on the resume, but what did I do? I started asking her questions. Well, tell me about the position. What were your hours like? So you've been there for 7 years. Did you start at one position and go to another position? Sign of someone who's not talented. She's like, X. Person we ended up hiring, the one I screened, I said, listen, tell me about a time in a situation you were in that was challenging and you saw the system needed to be improved. Her answer was, she's like, well, I was working for a marketing company for realtors. And what happened is we would call the agent on a Tuesday and confirm the appointment for a Wednesday. We'd send out the photographer, but then on Wednesday, the agent said, I never ordered this. You never confirmed this with me. I was like, well, I work with realtors. That doesn't sound too crazy. She goes, what I did was I started text messaging them, so I had written verification. So they said when the appointment wasn't there, I had it in a text that we did confirm it. And that's how I solved that issue. I went, that's good. That's the type of person that I want with me when I'm trying to scale a business. Right? And it's all by asking questions. And when you interview enough people, I always say cream rises to the top. So I know some of you think like, Carl, why are you talking about all this? I thought this was just about virtual assistants. The same principle applies if you're hiring an in-office admin or a virtual assistant. There are some virtual assistants that are talented. There are some virtual assistants who will fall asleep on the job, literally. Because I hire virtual assistants based out of the Philippines. They work the night shift, literally 12 hours ahead. I fired a VA because I found out he fell asleep. So these are 3 great books that if you haven't listened to on Audible or you haven't read, I definitely suggest. It's a fact. In order to attract talent to you, you must be talented. Talented people want to surround themselves with other talented people. There is a saying, you are most like the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. I heard Mark Cuban say it, and if Mark Cuban said it, it must be true. Right? But you are who you surround yourself with. Eagles flock together. So you'll never have the ability to attract, or more importantly, keep talented people around you if you are not talented. And luckily in this room, we have amazing talented people. So what does talent look for? They're going to look for structure, sense of community, accountability, consulting. And people are like, well, Carl, this needs to be done with the admin, whether it's virtual or office-based. I like to empower my admins. They are going to make mistakes. Everybody's human. I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. Right? But it's also coaching to prevent that mistake from happening again. Because nobody is perfect. But you're really, really going to be operating at a high level when you're empowering your admin to be able to grow and flourish and take on other responsibilities. I have a virtual assistant. His job is he trains our other virtuals on our systems and everything else. So we have a tiered level of even our virtual assistants. And they're all empowered to make decisions. I can't make every decision. I don't want to make every decision. But when you get these people around you, this is when you really start seeing your business scale. So to build a great team, you have to surround yourself with talented people. Most people, when they go out and they say, Carl, I want to build a team, a lot of people go out and the first thing they might do is hire a buyer's agent. I always stress that I think your first hire should be a super talented admin, whether it be virtual, office-based, because when you have a really good talented person, A, you're able to go out and do more business yourself and enjoy it more because you're not getting tied down to the admin part. And it will help you with your profitability. In order to know what you need in your organization, you must understand yourself so that you know who to affiliate with. If anyone here hasn't taken it, I always suggest to take the Tony Robbins disc test. It's free. I am a 99D, 99I. Kendall in our office, a lot of you know, she is a 99C. That's why we make a good match. Your D and I's are your high drivers, people who will talk. They are the lead generation people. They will go make cold calls. That's what they want to focus on. Your high S, your high C's, those are really great admin profiles, buyer agent profiles. I will not hire somebody without them taking the DISC test, virtual or office-based. Because I want to know who I'm surrounding myself with. If I hire as an admin another D, another high I, I'm going to be like, I have this idea, I'm going to go do it, let's do it. They're going to be like, yeah, great, let's go, let's do it, and we're not going to get anywhere. I was talking to a team, there was 3 high D, high I's. I'm like, you guys just run in circles. It's like, we're going to do this, yeah, we're going to do it, 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 we're going to do it. Like, you didn't do anything. Except high-five each other. Right? When you get that strong admin, especially as you build a team, that admin becomes the nucleus of the team. And I've done it the wrong way. I've hired other high D, high I's. They kept telling me how great I was. I was like, I am great. We're going to keep doing this. Yeah, I'm all excited. Like I drank a whole bunch of coffee. I got nothing done. They helped me zero. No help.
How did you get rid of them then?
We'll get into that. But that's why I try to surround myself with what I'm not, because it makes me better. And I know when you explain it like that, it's pretty clear, but when you're in the hiring, you might be sitting across that other high D, high I, and you're both just like pumping each other up like it's before it's a football game, you're going to smack, let's go. But you get nothing done. Wealthy individuals have one thing in common. They understand the importance of surrounding themselves with people who are truly committed to achieving their goals and providing an environment in which these goals can be achieved. This is so true, right? I set goals. I tell whoever supported me in the admin role what my goals are. We do weekly huddles. At the end of it, I say, what's our goal? Everybody's got to be on board. Because to be frank, if you're not on board, you're probably not the right admin for me. No hard feelings. But I have specific goals, desires, wants, needs, and I need people around me who are going to want the same. Right? Who are invested to see it grow. They also understand the rules of consulting accountability and one's journey to the highest level. When we bring an admin into the office, we make sure we train that admin as much as possible. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Right? And if you don't offer that training, that consulting, a talented person is going to be like, oh, this is not for me. This is not the environment I want to be in. Right? That's culture. It's helping each other, supporting each other, and bringing each other up. If you're surrounding yourself with people who are not average, who are average, you're not going to grow your business. I don't know how many people go when they look at their business, go, I'm pretty good with average. Right? I think most people look at their business and go, I want to be above average. I want to get to that next level. But, and I get this, I would like to get to that next level, but I don't want to trade off not having a life. Right? Because I've been there where I push. Right? Only thing I want is that next level. I'm going to push, I'm 100% in. Then I realize I put on 20 pounds, I have no life, and what the heck happened in life? I've missed out. But when you start getting really good admin around you, you can start pushing, get to that next level and have a good balance. Because if you get to that next level and you sacrifice so much, what difference does it make? And I'm saying that because I've been there. And I realized, I'm like, what? That wasn't worth it. So why talent? You can leverage. Leverage is huge. You can free up time. I always say this, right? I used to use the example Bill Gates, but now let's use Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos he just lost what, $69 million? Jeff Bezos can make another $69 million. He can't be 25 again. 69 billion is a lot of money, but he still cannot be 25 again. Maybe he'll figure some way out to do it in 10 years. But that's why you also have to look at your time, because it's so valuable, you can't get it back. You eliminate peaks and valleys when you have good admin, right? How many realtors in this room? Don't worry, I won't make you raise your hand. Good. I love real estate. This business is great. Everything's great. A month later, like, Carl, I don't know. I might have to go get a job. This business. I'm like, you were so happy a month ago. Yeah, but everything closed, and now I'm so slow. Like, this is tough, right? And a lot of that is usually because you're so busy doing stuff that can be done by an admin. I see Soha shaking her head because she knows. You're so busy doing things that an admin could be doing, and you could be out prospecting to get more business where you don't have those peaks and valleys. And that's when this business is kicking at 100%. When you're really in the zone that you love doing. When you're in your sweet spot doing what you love. Right? Doesn't that sound like the best career for anything you want to do? If you're doing what you truly love doing. I love doing stuff like this. I love talking to agents. I love helping people fix their issues. Like, it's my thing. I like it better than being a realtor. I hate showing houses. You don't ever want me to show a house to you or anybody you know because you'd be embarrassed. It's not my sweet spot. So you just got to figure out what that is and then delegate out around you so you're performing at your highest level. Right? And what does this do? It creates income. When you hire good admins, it's not an expense. It's an investment. And we're going to go in a little bit about how to really keep low cost and hire admins when you need them. Because how many people in this room are like, yeah, I could use an admin, but I don't know if I need someone 40 hours a week. Maybe I'll use someone part-time. We're going to show you how to do it on project-based. When you hire, when the stuff is getting in the way that you have more business leads than you can get to, and when you can outsource it. A lot of people say, well, I have too many leads, I have too much of this. You know what I'm do? I'm going to get a buyer's agent, I'll give them some of the leads, and maybe they can capture it. This is what happens. You hire the buyer's agent, you give the buyer's agent a bunch of leads, they don't close any of them. You're like, what's going on? And then you realize that if you took the lead, that you probably would have converted them better. So all these excess leads that you thought you were going to gain money on, you actually lost. Where if you had a really good admin who was freeing you up on some of the admin side stuff where you can really focus on your leads, you would have had a better conversion rate. And it would have created you more income. And anyone who thinks like, I don't know, that sounds fluff, I've been there, and I've seen a lot of agents do it. When you're as effective and as efficient as you can be with the time you have allotted to your career and you've mastered the art of generating leads. Brian Buffini says it best. I got to agree with him. What business are we in? We're not in the customer service business. We are in the lead generation business. Those who can generate and convert, because that's not talked about enough in this industry, the leads are the ones who are going to create the highest amount of commissions. You can give the best customer service to your 2 clients, but you're not going to last in the business. And this isn't a rant saying like you shouldn't give good customer service to the leads you have. Of course you should. But this is the lead generation business. When you can generate leads at the highest level is when you become one of the highest level agents. And when you can learn how to convert the leads. Generating leads in this business isn't hard. You can throw a bunch of money and generate leads, but can you convert them? I always say this, give me 10 leads, give someone else 10 leads who, I'm pretty confident I'll probably convert the 10 leads more. But that's why more and more lead conversion has to be happening. And this is what happens to team leaders. You're giving your team members leads. They're not as strong as you as converting it, but they're saying it's okay if I didn't convert this one because there's another one coming right down the pipe. So why am I going to go back and really worry about that one? And if you're a team leader and you feel like that stuff's starting to happen, that's when you cut the leads off. I know it sounds a little cutthroat, but this is what you got to do to really run at the highest level. You can increase your income in 2 ways. 1, you can do more. 2, leverage. Pretty cut and dry. No magic sauce. Talent, someone who's a perfect match for the job description and possesses the skills, knowledge, and competencies you desire. Right? Admin, again, the DISC test. And I'm not saying you just go by the DISC test. Because someone could have the perfect admin profile, and then you interview them, and you're like, no. So I wouldn't use the DISC test as your end-all, be-all, but I would use it as a frame of reference in your narrowing down process. Who here has ever put a job ad on Craigslist or Indeed? You have no problem getting resumes.
No problem.
You will get 1,000,001 resumes. It actually becomes a little intimidating because you have so many resumes you don't know where to start. So this is where we're going to talk about how a process that you create to narrow down the field. People use this attitude. When I have money, I'll hire talent, or when I hire talent, I'll have money. You're truly better off doing this by yourself than hiring subpar people. Because subpar people will just drag you down. Again, hiring talent is a benefit, it's not a cost. Bad hire costs you money, time, and opportunity because you're spending so much time with your bad hire that it just drags you down. Been there. Good hire saves you money, doesn't cost opportunity. An excellent hire frees time, makes you a lot of money, and creates multiple opportunities. Again, if you're running a business, you have a great admin handling everything behind, it allows you to free up and do some more prospecting and stuff. That's when you can really mushroom cloud your business. What would happen if you freed your time? What other opportunities would come across your way that you can leverage? This is so true. This is probably the truest thing you're going to hear. Be slow to hire, have a process to hire, and when you make that bad hire, you just fire quick. Firing people is not fun. I had somebody come into me once. They actually were like, Carl, I think I deserve a raise. And I said, well, here we go. This is tough, but I actually eliminated the position. Sorry. Thinking in my head, that really went a lot different than they probably thought it was going to go. But I had already made up my mind. Just wasn't the right fit. And I've been there, you hire somebody, you're like, no, I'm going to give them another chance, or I'm going to give them another chance, and I'm going to give them another chance, and then finally, like, why am I giving all these chances? It's time to move on. Identify the role of the individual. Set people up for success. If you're going to hire someone to help you make phone calls, but they're really built to be an admin, it's not going to work. And vice versa. If you're hiring someone for an admin position, but they're not really have an admin profile, it's probably not going to work. And I've seen teams do this where they hire a buyer's agent, and what do they try to do with the buyer's agent? They try to make the buyer's agent their assistant. Doesn't work out. Rarely ever does it work out, right? And some of the problems too, people worry about, if I hire an assistant, they just want to learn everything I do and then go get their license and do it on their own. Has anyone ever felt that way before? I've heard it from plenty of realtors. But we're going to talk about solutions for that. You got to find well-rounded people, right? At the end of the day, we got to enjoy the people we're working around. We put so many hours in. Where can you find talent? Everywhere. Talent may or may not have a real estate license. This is a big debate I have with some people. Oh, I want my assistant to be licensed, or I don't want them to be. I think they're better not licensed. You can always get somebody their license. But a lot of times, if people try to pluck someone who wasn't that great of a realtor to try to be an admin, when the fact is, they're not really good as a realtor, they're not really good as an admin. Right? Neither one's really in their wheelhouse. But they're like, oh, they're licensed. We'll go over that. So some of the places, now we're going to talk about really where to find virtual assistants. Right? It's pretty easy to find if you want to do an office-based assistant, Indeed.com, Monster.com, ZipRecruiter.com. You put out an ad. But again, you're going to get inundated with resumes, and we're going to go through the screening process, whether it's with a virtual or with an office-based assistant. Like I said, I have 4 full-time admins, and they all went through my process before getting hired. So, places to find, MyOutDesk.com. MyOutDesk is a company based out of California where they source virtual assistants in the Philippines. It costs $8.75 an hour. A lot of times the virtual assistants have a lot of basic training in real estate, contracts, everything else, right? We're going to go over some of the advantages in a minute about working with a virtual assistant. MyVirtueDesk.com. It's really weird how many of these sites there really are. MyVirtueDesk.com. And if anybody wants the slides afterwards, just give me your card and I'll send it out to you. OnlineJobs.ph. .ph is for the Philippines. And some of the workers I've had that are virtual are some of the hardest working people I've surrounded myself with. I was going back and forth with one of my virtuals last night at 9:30 at night. I don't even know what time it was in the Philippines. I don't even know if he slept. And I sent a message hoping he would read it tomorrow, and he hopped on and started responding. And I'm like, hey, no, you don't have to respond. I just didn't want to lose that train of thought. So I wanted to send it out. Here's a great tip, too, with working with admins. Right, you get really talented people, you might send them an email on a Saturday because you're thinking it. But what happens? The really talented admin's like going to respond. You're like, no, you don't have to respond today. It's Saturday, right? Because I really respect people's time off. I don't really like bothering my admin when they're not on the clock unless it's an emergency. So what I did is I used G Suite Gmail. There's a program called Boomerang. It's free. You can send an email in time when it gets sent. Listen, I'll come up with a crazy idea. I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I got to send out an email about this or write it down. I will never send it at off hours. I'll schedule it for on hours. Because I respect people's time off. And I think that's huge. So Boomerang is a great program. You come up with an idea on a Friday night. You're like, oh, I want to send it out, but I don't want to bother someone for the weekend. You can schedule it for that Monday, 9 a.m. to get sent. StaffVirtual.com. VirtualAssistantTalent.com. Fiverr.com. This is where everybody should start. Fiverr.com. Fiverr.com is you can get people from across the world to do project-based things. Part of my slides was done from Fiverr.com. I cannot go in and do a PowerPoint, Google slide presentation if my life depended on it. The graphics and everything, no way. So I post something on Fiverr. What's great about Fiverr is you get people who bid on the job. You're able to go through and read reviews, see what kind of quality work they do, and then you can give them the job as a project-based. This graphics or pre-listing booklet was done on Fiverr. Any type of social graphics, anything you want created, a great place to start is Fiverr. It used to be a website where everything was $5, but now it's more project-based. But you could get amazing work done for really affordable, and you don't have to get into a contract or hire somebody. Right? And you really could come down to paying somebody $3 an hour to get stuff done on Fiverr. So again, I tell everybody, go in there, really, try it with a simple project, and you're gonna see, once you do it once, you're gonna be like, oh, all right. You just do it more and more. The hiring process. First thing you wanna do is you wanna screen. So this is what I'll do. If I put up a job application or I look for somebody, I'll say, we'll use Craigslist as an example. Looking to hire part-time assistant, XYZ, please fax your resume to XYZ phone number. I have not sent a fax since 2005. I honestly do not know how to use the fax machine in our office. Just looking at it, I'm like, do I have to put a code in? I don't know. But why am I asking somebody to fax me their resume? Not even so much that they know how to use it.
They're paying attention to detail.
They're paying attention to details, and they're going over and beyond to accomplish a task. So I've done this before, and what happens is I'll get faxes from the library or from Staples. So this is showing me that this person, number one, can follow directions. Two, will go out of their way and over and beyond to get things accomplished. Guess what? When they fax it to me, it goes into my e-fax. It comes into my email. I'm not even so impressed that they know how to use a fax. I'm more impressed that they went that extra step. Because what would I do if somebody just emails me their resume? I don't even open it. I delete it. If you're not listening now to directions, you're not going to be listening later. Another step I do is send me your resume as a PDF. I might do that instead. Do you know what happens? I get it in a Word document. Delete. I don't even read it. Don't even read it. I look at the resume. One misspelled word, and I'm terrible with grammar and spelling. But if I find one, or my wife finds one because she's better at it, delete. This is how you start narrowing down the funnel of who's going to be around you. Another thing I might do if it's like Indeed, tell me why you think you'd be a good fit for this position. If somebody doesn't take the time and read that, you're done. Next thing is if you pass my initial screening test, you're going to get an email. It will say, I'll have 4 steps. 1, go to TonyRobbins.com. Here's the link, take the DISC test. 2, email me the DISC test in a PDF file. 3, in the subject headline, put completed DISC test. 4, once again, tell me why you're a good fit for this position. It's like an automated email I send. So this is step 2. I will sometimes get the DISC test back as a link, delete. I don't even care. I don't care if it's 5,000C, delete. I also get it as, it will say completed desk as per your request, delete. They'll do everything but not tell me why they think they're a good fit, delete. This is how you start screening it down. Because I want somebody who's going to follow every step. And some people are like, oh, Carl, you just sound like a pain. Well, you know what? Then you can't work for me. Because I would rather take the time up front to find the right person than spend the time on the back end firing the person, not stressing me out. I have enough to worry about than not hiring the right people. So that's a great way to screen, and I use this screening process on in-office and my virtuals. My guy Johan, who's been with me for 4 years, he is a 99C. The guy's great. Detail-oriented, responsible, just, he crushes it. And I maybe talk to him now twice a week. The interview process. This is my interview process. I don't tell you anything about the job. Say, listen, thank you for coming in. What I want to do is I want to learn about you, what motivates you, what you really enjoy doing, a little bit about your past, and if you have any questions about me, the position, feel free to ask, and we'll see if we're a good fit. Does that sound fair? Yes. You can learn a lot by people just by asking questions. And she's not in the room, but when Victoria joined the company, when I interviewed her, I said, tell me about some of your greatest challenges in high school. She's like, high school. This. Tell me about some of your greatest accomplishments. Tell me about some of the things you had to overcome. Talented people have a story. And sometimes it's the same thing. People ask me that. What was your greatest accomplishment in high school? My wrestling career. What was your biggest challenge in high school? My wrestling career. Right? It was something I was very proud of. I wasn't the best wrestler, but I learned a lot. It taught me a lot of self-discipline. When you're interviewing people who are not as talented, it's such a hem and haw. You could just tell. People are going to rise to the occasion. And when you interview enough people, you're going to see. You're never going to interview someone and go, well, how are you on your attention to detail? No one's ever going to look at you and go, I'm terrible. I mean, if they did, that'd be great. Like, thanks, goodbye. How responsible are you? Not that responsible. Okay. How are you showing up at time? I'm never late. You were 5 minutes late today. Right? And we laugh, but this is what most people do in the interview. How would you say you are attention to detail, right? I don't even ask the questions. I want to learn about the person. I want to learn about their history. I want to see how well-spoken they are. Tell me about the time that you saw a process or a system and you went in and fixed it. Oh, well, I've never really done that before. What questions do you have for me? I was interviewing 5 virtual assistants yesterday over Zoom, right? It was a long morning of snow. I interviewed 5 virtual assistants, and I asked the one virtual assistant, what questions do you have for me? She was the only one who goes, I don't have any questions. I said, if you just went through this interview with me and you have no questions, then you obviously, number one, aren't paying attention, won't ever think outside the box. You're not a good fit. But the one I really liked, I said, what questions do you have for me? What do you expect out of me? Where's there room for advancement? If I see an issue, how should I approach you about it that we can get it fixed? I'm like, she's asking questions that I would ask, right? I have one virtual assistant, Angel. I said, well, why did you leave your previous position? He goes, Carl, they were pigeonholing me. He goes, I was so good at what I was doing at the admin job, they would never give me a higher position because they didn't want to lose the money they were making off of me on the admin position when I was really passionate about helping other people grow and train. I'm like, whoa, that's a really good answer, right? So that's why asking good questions and hearing the responses is when the cream's going to rise to the top. And if you interview 5 people, after narrowing down the screening process, you're going to find one that's really talented. So it's not as hard as you think once you learn how to do it. So we went through the interview, could do reference check, your story, build rapport. You want to see if you're going to be able to get along with the person during the process. Then you can eliminate, right? As soon as I asked the one virtual assistant, what questions do you have for me? She's like, none. I'm like, good. Click. I interviewed another one. After 2 minutes, I said, okay, we're good. Thanks. Bye. I could just tell with the answers and everything. I'm not going to sit there and interview somebody for an hour if in the first 2 minutes I know they're not the right fit. And I've interviewed so many people that I'm down to the part where in 2 minutes I could tell whether or not you're going to get hired. Here's just some general questions to ask. Tell me about you. Tell me about your hobbies. What formal education seminars have you participated in? Describe your reading habits. I mean, people think this might be crazy. What books have you read in the last 12 months? What were your most and least successful jobs? So we interviewed somebody for our company. It was sort of to help agents, right? That was the real goal of this position. So I said, tell me about your last job. I was like, well, I was at Verizon. I said, what did you really, really enjoy at that job? Excuse me, my first question, what did you really, really dislike at that job? Like, what was a challenge? Like, I really disliked the sales part. That to me was it was not me. I'm like, what did you really enjoy? She's like, I used to really enjoy when people would come in with issues and problems and I was able to help fix it. Hired. Because if you're hiring people who are doing what they really enjoy for the position that it is, this was a position to be able to help. It fits right in their sweet spot. Now, if I hired her and said, listen, you're going to be doing sales and calls, how do you think that would have worked out? Would have been a terrible fit. But I put her in a position that she enjoys doing and it's flourished. What are the biggest mistakes you made in the last 5 years and what have you learned from them? Right? Someone says to me, oh, I haven't made a mistake in the last 5 years. I'm like, see ya. How many hours per week do you work on average? What motivates you? You're going to be surprised. It's not always money. Who've been in your career influences and why? If you interview a millennial, you probably hear something like Gary Vee or like, all right. Can you tell me about a time that you have shown great tenacity, right? When I interview somebody who's brand new licensed, one question I always ask them, and if you're looking to build a team or have a team, tell me about a situation where you had to grit something out. And sometimes people are like, well, why do you want to know that? I think the biggest key to being successful in this business is grit. You have to be able to handle the bad times, work through them, and overcome them. If you never had a situation before where you really had to go through a difficult situation to overcome and grit it through, this might not be the right business for you, right? Especially in the beginning. Go through a lot of peaks and valleys. So what are you looking for in your next job and company? I ask this, what do you look for in a boss? What do you look for in a manager? What could we do to help you perform at your top level? But you see these questions, they're a lot different than a lot of people do the interview. A lot of people, like I said, go into the interview telling them what the job is and hoping the person says that they can do it. So we're going to talk about now some of the advantages of working with a VA. It saves you time. It reduces your costs. There's companies and sites you could get VAs for $3 an hour, or you could pay VAs to $10 an hour, $15 an hour. So I'll tell you the story. I was in Chicago at this coaching program I belong to. It's a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I was sitting there with a lawyer from Louisiana, and I started telling him about virtuals. He's loving it. I mean, he's like fully engaged about this conversation. Then he told me he just switched software programs that he uses in his law firm. He said he got it off of another attorney who's in Las Vegas, whose whole company is built on virtual assistants. He said he paid this company in Las Vegas $30 an hour for the virtual to come in and set everything up. They said they found out the virtual on a site does freelance work for $4 an hour. And he said this woman was phenomenal. She knocked it out of the park. She set up our whole program. It's easier to hire and fire. I had an agent. He's like, oh, Carl, I hired I said, listen, try the virtual. Trust me, I'll help you with it. He hires the virtual. He's like, yeah, Carl, I don't know. Really didn't work out. He goes, she stopped showing up. I don't know about this. I don't know how you do it. I said, listen, you're lucky. I said, what? I goes, let's flip the situation. Let's just say you hired somebody who was sitting in your office and after the first 3 or 4 days stopped showing up. Always had an emergency. It's a lot harder to move on from somebody like that. With the virtuals, you can just let go and bring on somebody else. For reducing costs, when I tell you it's $8.75 an hour, it's $8.75 an hour. If you pay somebody $10 an hour that's office-based, you also have to pay Social Security, FICA, and other taxes, where $10 an hour really becomes more $12 an hour. With virtuals, you just have to pay that flat rate. Less liability. I'm not going to have a virtual slip and fall in my office. You know, they're working from home. I don't have to worry about snowstorms. There's less liability. You can scale your team larger and faster and more profitable with virtuals. Because you can hire multiple positions for the same or less cost. You know, I have a good friend runs a team in an office out in New York. He uses virtuals in the same way. Right? If you go and hire all these different positions in a team, and you have to fill up office space, you have to pay the taxes, everything else, it adds up quick. With virtuals, you can scale quicker. Virtuals complement today's real estate business. How many agents are on the go all the time? Right? What happens is you hire an assistant who's in the office. What happens? I got to go back to the office because I got to be there with the assistant, make sure they're working, make sure this, that, right? Well, most people now are just want to be on the road, meetings with buyers and sellers. I've never had a virtual assistant get a real estate license on me. Never happened to me. My man Johan is not, his desire is not to go show houses in East Brunswick. Extremely loyal. Extremely, extremely loyal. You have questions today?
How do you keep them loyal? In other words, now I know Johan, right?
Yeah.
His name. What if I paid him more? Is that how you keep them loyal? Like, how do you keep that?
So, you know, a little bit of this is you got to know the economics in the Philippines. He has consistent work, consistent pay. He gets to work from home. He doesn't have to travel. I'm loyal to him, and he's loyal to me. If he takes a day off, I pay him. Right? Just like I would. He's been there with me long enough. At the end of the year, there's also in the Philippines a tradition of the 13th month pay, that your Christmas bonus is really just another month pay. I give him more. Because you know why? He deserves it. So just like building loyalty with admin staff that could be in your office or virtual, treat them right, reward, acknowledge, coach, and everything else. And I give him freedom. I don't call him every day. You know, he works with some other people on it. I know he's there. I could use Google, and I'm going to show you how to communicate, but I could try to FaceTime him or something right now. He would pick up. He's got a great voice, like, hello? Johan. So, in my experience with every VA I've had, they want your business to succeed. Every VA I had wanted a long-term position. They wanted stability. They wanted to see the business grow because they know it's good for them. When I leave here, one of my virtuals will call me and ask me how'd it go. How was the attendance? I was walking through the office the other day, And I was like on the phone with one of my VA, Angel. I said, okay, Angel, I'm gonna get you everything. Okay, I'll get you everything. I know, I'm behind a little bit, I'm sorry. And one of the in-office staff started laughing. They're like, what is that? I was like, hey, Angel's keeping me really accountable what I gotta do. I said I was gonna get it to him yesterday. I got backed up. I didn't get it to him. And he was literally on the phone saying, hey, Carl, I can't get this done until you get me this. I'm like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it, right? And that's when you're working with staff at a high level, when they're keeping you accountable. I love when admin staff and support staff are pushing me to do better and saying, hey, Carl, this was the deadline. We're not making it because of something we need from you. Let's go. That's when you're firing at a high level. But I was literally walking through the office apologizing to him. Like, I'm sorry. I'll get it done. Don't worry. So, everyone here know who Richard Branson is? Head of Virgin Mobile. This is one of my favorite quotes. Any fool can make something seem complicated. It's hard to make something seem simple. I've seen agents do this with assistants. I'm the only one that can do this. So I'm going to make it sound really, really complicated. Like, yeah, well, what you got to do is you got to, the influx take. And I'm like, what is this, Back to the Future? I'm like, you got to keep it simple when you're training people. Like, but they try to make it sound really, really high level. And it's almost like, whoa, when you're training people, you got to dumb it down to the easiest, most basic level for people to learn. So that's why I use this quote, because when you can dumb it down to help people learn, it's the best. And I said to, drop the ego. Let's go. So working with the VA assistant. So I get this question a lot, like, Carl, I don't know how you work with them or if they're next to you, whatever else. So, and I actually had somebody who brought on a virtual, and he was like, well, my in-house and, other people want somebody here. I'm like, that's why you need to get a virtual. This way, everyone's not there passing off work to each other and everybody can focus. So, you need to have a clear job description. You have to be able to explain what you want this person to do. You have to train, and you have to train. It is annoying in the beginning, training, right? Because this is what happens. We start training, but then my phone rings. I got to go show this property. I'm going to run out. The assistant just sits there like this for 2 hours, waiting. Hopefully the agent comes back, and then another fire happened, and they don't get to train. You have to train. It's so easy, too. Some of the trainings you don't even have to be there for. A lot of your processes, I say use a program like VideoYard. If you're doing something on the computer, you can record the screen, and you can save it and give it to them on how to train. And then what happens is when you get really good, talented admin and you scale and you bring on other admin, that admin then can train your other admin. I had somebody who needed help on how to write a contract. I had my virtual do it. Because you know why? My virtual knows how to write a contract better than I do. I haven't done a buy-side deal in 7 years. You got to systemize. You got to use great programs like Asana.com. Asana is a program that's built by computer software engineers. It's like a project thing. It sounds intimidating when I say it like that, but it's like really easy. You can set up templates. You got to think like, what do you do that is replicable every time? Every time you list a house, you have to do certain things, right? And when you have 1 or 2 listings, it's real easy to make sure you get all those steps down. But what happens when you have 10, 15, 20 listings? Or you have 10, 15 buyers going at once? Oh man, I never scheduled the home inspection. Oh man, was the escrow check sent in? Has anyone ever had those fear, panic moments? You're like, oh my God, I gotta go through my email right now. I'm not sure if I did this. And then you see your data, you're like, oh. Whew. Or even worse, you realize you didn't do it. You're like, oh no. Oh. How do I explain this to everybody? I've been there. I'm there a lot less because I use programs like Asana. You could even do it in Dotloop where you build out the templates where you make sure everything is there that needs to get done. Because I used to have so many of those, oh no, moments that I was like, this has to stop. And this is how you scale. So what's great about that is your virtuals can have access to these programs so they know what to do. Because what happens is if you never really systemize it and get things down like this, and you have to tell the person everything they have to do every time, what's going to happen? You're going to be like, why do I have this assistant? All I do is tell them what to do. I could just do it myself and it'll be easier. But I always push people like, listen, try. I know it's going to be a little bit more time now, but try to get it a little bit organized. Even if it's a simple checklist, it could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a Microsoft Word. What do you need every time you have a listing? Do you need open house flyers? Do you need this? Do you need that? Just have a checklist for the person to work off of. Because if you have to regurgitate it to them every time, you're going to want to get rid of them. No step in the process is too small when you're trying to systemize things. And when you have checklists, you better be revisiting that checklist and adding things to it. You can't just do a checklist and say, this is the holy grail of checklists, because you're going to miss something. So what you have to do is you have to go back and say, okay, what can we add that this will never happen again? That there wasn't a for sale sign put out there. Whoever took a listing and forgot to put the for sale sign out? Oh, that was only me? That's a fun phone conversation, right? Well, Carl, I'm glad we're on the market for 4 days. Are you going to put like a for sale sign in my house? And I was just like, oh yeah, and then you're making something up. But that's why when you have a checklist of everything that has to get done every time, you're able to do more. So I always say it takes a little bit more time in the beginning to set it up, but once you set it up, you don't have to revisit it, except for small little details. Morning huddles, man, quick check-in. What do we got going on today? What do you need from me? It could be a 2-minute thing, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, it has to be every day. And then when everyone's firing on all cylinders, it could be more like once a week. But just that, hey team, great, what's going on? What can I help with? Who's working on what? What fires are coming up? Accountability, right? I hold my VAs accountable. If they have projects and they're not done in the time frame I want, or something comes up, what's going on? All right, so real estate tasks for a VA, right? You're like, all right, Carl, this sounds great, but if I hire a VA, what are they going to do? Database management, CRMs. If you don't have all your past clients and everything together, and let me just go off of this, I put database management, CRM, because I'm going to be frank, I don't care if you use any CRM, but you better at least have an Excel spreadsheet with everybody's contact and everything into it. And you better start it off in the beginning, because when you go back and try to do it, it's a million times more miserable, right? I don't want to spend my day on a Google Sheet or a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. But I have plenty of stuff that's fully updated because my VAs are doing it, right? And I'll send them piecemeal information. And I'm like, here you go, just figure it out, I don't know. Is that a 7? Sure. But they'll put it together. So database CRM management's huge. MLS, adding and updated listings, right? That's a great tool to do with a VA. Of course, you want to go in at the end and double check, just like you would if it was an assistant sitting next to you. Price reductions, right? I've done a lot of REO in my career. With REOs, we get these beautiful things that never go away. They're called tasks. Then when you clear out all your tasks, they give you 12, 15 more. So the VAs are in there managing the tasks to make sure we're not late. Price reduction, sending paperwork to the MLS. Around here, we have an MLS where we need to get our paperwork in very fast, or you get fined very quickly. So they handle all of that. Compliance. I put dotloop up there, but it just doesn't have to be dotloop. It could be SkySlope, whatever system you use. You know, a lot of virtual assistants already know how to use dotloop, already know how to use SkySlope, Instanet, Bread and Butter, whatever all these systems are called. But they could go in there, handle all the compliance, marketing, social media, video production. And what I mean by video production is you can give them quick videos and they can edit, put in your logos, things like that. Graphics, I mean, there are some super, super talented VAs who can create amazing content. Again, I have a buddy, he's probably got 5,000 followers on his Instagram who are, all real. And it's managed and ran, and the content's all done by a virtual assistant. Marketing, just listed, just sold, all that type of stuff, all could easily be done by virtuals. Prepare documents, write contracts, write listing agreements. Again, you want to double check, send them out to get signed. Think about this. If you're on the road, you just showed a property, you just send a quick email with all the information in regards to what the offer needs to be. You send it over to the virtual, they send it out, and they send it right to get signed while you're still with your clients. When I showed houses 7 years ago, I hated scheduling appointments. I don't know why. I think it was before showing time was really big, and I'm texting agents, I'm tracking them down. Monmouth County, you still have to text everybody to get the lockbox code, and you get it 6 days later. Right? I hated scheduling it. I hated mapping it out. Right? I didn't want to be the guy that's like, okay, we're going to go see this, and then I'm like, oh my God, we're just looping around. Like, VAs are great for scheduling showings, mapping out exactly where you want to go. Fantastic at it. And again, I know a lot of this stuff seems like, well, Carl, that doesn't take long. Well, Carl, that doesn't take long. Well, Carl, that doesn't take long. It's the compound effect. It's all these little things, they add up to take up a lot. I used to get anxiety about writing contracts too. Like, oh, I got to go back, I got to write this contract. This is like before dial looping everything, and I'm handwriting it. I got my calculator out, trying to see if everything adds up. I don't know if I spelled their name right. It was something that I didn't enjoy doing, so I don't do it. Follow-ups, transaction coordination. Man, do I love calling attorneys to make sure a deposit's there. Or calling to see if the mortgage commitment's ready. Or to see if title's done. Guys, these are all non-licensed actions that a VA can be doing at a good level. So those are some of the things your VA can do for you, right? None of those tasks require them to sit next to you. So I heard people all the time like, oh, I need someone, next to me so they can, what if I need a letter mailed out? I'm like, what? I'm like, you need somebody here at 3 times the cost or double the cost to mail a letter out for you? Well, you know what I mean, but if I need something like that, or I need them to go, right, yeah, I could probably use a virtual. All right, tools to work with a virtual assistant. G Suite, Microsoft Office, whatever you use. I like giving my virtuals an email at a domain that I can control. And this isn't even for VAs too. This is for in-house people, right? At KareemRamos.com, whatever it might be. So what happens is if that position gets eliminated or you end up firing that person, you can recapture the email and you can go back in and figure things out, where you're not totally lost. G Suite, you could get an email address at your name, at whatever web domain. It's $5 a user. It's really inexpensive, super easy to set up. You get free Google Drive with it that backs up and everything. But this is a great way to give your VA an email address or your assistant. We use Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is great if you've never used it before. There's even an app on your phone, and you can use it like an instant messenger. Right? Hey, I need this done, X, Y, Z. You could do video conferencing through Google Hangout. I'll have mornings where it's me and 4 VAs on a screen talking about what needs to get done for the day. But the app is really good to send the instant messages. A VoIP phone like RingCentral, phone.com. Our VAs have all 732 local phone numbers. You call into our office system, you put in a specific extension, it rings a VA in the Philippines. Just like you were calling the office. And you can do this stuff for pretty inexpensive. It's amazing what you can do with the technology. Project management application, Asana, Trello, there's a bunch of different ones, but the more you can get organized and systemized, the easier it's going to be to scale. Again, online programs, you either want a Dotloop, SkySlope, Intranet, Instanet, all these ones, Transaction Desk, be able to help with the VA, let them write some offers and stuff to really free you up. Payment, PayPal. I pay a lot of VAs securely through PayPal. I would never pay a VA in some weird, sketchy way. And what's good about a company like MyOutDesk is you will have a representative that helps place VAs with you, and if it doesn't work out, you can fire them and just bring in somebody new. And again, it's only $8.75 an hour. I think there's like a setup fee, maybe like $500. But what's really good about it is you're able to swap people in and out if it doesn't work, and you just pay the company. They just charge your credit card. So $8.75 an hour, if you have somebody full-time, 40 hours a week working for you, comes out to about $1,500. That comes out to about $18,000 a year for a full-time person. Listen, I appreciate everybody for coming. I know it's a tough day, especially after a snow day yesterday. But if you want the slides, just feel free to come up here, drop off your card if you didn't give it to Vicky already, who was here before. Also, on March 13th, we're going to be doing another training here at the Pines Manor. We're basically going to be doing, Olivier and I are going to be both doing up here. We're going to kind of do some closing techniques as we approach the spring market to hopefully help some agents convert some more of their leads. So we're going to do a little role playing. We're probably going to embarrass ourselves, but I'm used to that. So again, it's going to be March 13th. If you'd like to come, just keep an eye out. Again, thanks to everyone for coming.